Okay, good evening everybody and welcome. We're going to begin with the sense of excitement and maybe trepidation in approaching the very last chapter of Tanya. Excitement as it is something of an achievement to get through all 53 chapters. Trepidation because have we really got through anything? Have we even begun to understand what Tanya is about? The nature of all Torah learning is that it is circular, not linear, meaning that you don't just learn and then move on to the next thing, but you always come back, and you can always come back and learn it again and again and again. Not just the things that you didn't learn, the things that you did learn, that you've studied already, you can go back to them and always find endless depth and new layers to it. And certainly Tanya, the way we've been studying it, has been to try and capture the essence of each chapter, the main message of it. Even that has had to be somewhat superficial, but to go back and look at each chapter of Tanya in depth and learn it in depth is a totally different experience, which obviously would take a lot longer than the time that we've spent, but whatever time is well spent. So, being that Torah is a circular thing, so the book of Tanya as well, coming to the very final chapter, it will go back to the very beginning of Tanya as well. And in the final chapter, Rabbi Zalman will lay down his final message that encapsulates what he set out to do in the book of Tanya. And that is what he spelled out on the title page of Tanya, where he said that he called his book Likutei Amarim, a gathering of sayings, that is in order to explain the verse in the Torah that says, Ki korev alecha hadavar me'od, that the matter of Torah is close to you, beficha uvilvavcha lasoso, it's in your mouth, it's in your heart to do it. Meaning the Torah proclaims that the spiritual path of Judaism, the path of becoming connected to Hashem and close to God in this world, is something that is close to you, it's accessible, it's realistic, you can do it. You just have to do it. And said Rabbi Zalman that I'm going to explain how it is indeed close, accessible to every one of us. And he says I'm going to do it b'derech haruka k'tzara, in the long, short way. Which, as we explained when we started this series, that there's a short, long way and a long, short way. A short, long way means a quick fix that in the short term seems like a great solution, but it ends up being long because you don't really get where you need to go. And there are many paths of spirituality out there that are the short, long ways, easy and accessible, but don't really get you anywhere. Makes you feel good, but doesn't actually transform who you are. The long, short way means it's long, it's hard work, it takes effort, it takes toil, it takes focus. You're going to have to put in a lot to get anywhere, but you'll get there. You actually will get there. And so it's long, but it's short. Because instead of wasting time on all the paths, all the flashy lights that say, I'll solve your life in 5 minutes, or I'll give you the solution to every problem just for a few bucks, this is a long project, but it will get you there. It is certain to succeed. That's what Tanya is supposed to be. And so we've come to the end of the long path in a short way that we've done it. And so here, Rabbi Zalman is going to present to us, with all the knowledge that we've gained over the first 52 chapters, the 53rd chapter will show how Ki korev alecha, it really is accessible to you to be close to God, to find God. He's going to tell us where God can be found and show us that there's a miracle, a miraculous energy and a miraculous power that we hold in our very hands. It's not far away, it's totally ours, and we can totally do it. How he does that? Let's have a look. It says Rabbi Zalman in chapter 53, when the first temple stood, and the ark and tablets of the 10 Commandments were housed in the Holy of Holies, the Shekhinah, the revealed light of the Infinite One, dwelled there and was clothed in the 10 Commandments, far higher and stronger, and with a more intense revelation than its revelation in the upper worlds. This is in continuation to what we studied last week, that just like in the human body, we have a soul, which is our life force, our energy, our true being, We have a body, which is the external shell of our being. The body's not alive. The soul is what gives the body life. The body's not innately alive. For the soul to give body life, the soul needs a seat, needs headquarters, needs a place to reveal itself in the body, and that is in the mind. That the conscious mind, the human mind, is the vessel through which the soul is received and spread through the body, as we discussed at length last week. So the brain, the mind, serves as an intermediary between the spiritual world of the soul, the physical world of the body, because the mind has a both. It's a part of the body on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's a mind. It's able to conceptualize, to be conscious, to be aware. And so the body has its life force spread from the soul through the mind into the various parts of the body. In a similar way, we said, God is the soul of the world. There's an entire huge universe, a physical world. There are spiritual worlds that are beyond this. All these worlds are just the shell, just the external. The life force behind that is God, the divine light. But that divine light needs an intermediary to transport it into the world, to make it present in the world as well. Just like the soul needs the mind to spread its light through the body, God needs a conduit through which his light can spread through the world. And what is that conduit? We saw last week's chapter was the Torah. That the Torah is the divine wisdom, the mind of God. It's in this world. It talks about this world. It's available in this world. We read it in this world. It's down here. And yet, it is divine. It's godly. It's God's wisdom. It's God's opinion. It's the way God thinks. And it's the perfect intermediary between the divine light, which is simple and beyond, and the physical world, which is down here, the Torah. It's the intermediary between them. More specifically now, Rabbi Shneur Zalman says that we're not just talking about a theoretical idea. This is an actual thing in this world. That the presence of Torah in this world is what brings the divine light down here. The physical presence of Torah in this world, well, the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai happened when Moses went up the mountain and received the 10 Commandments. What he received was tablets, not pills, stone tablets, engraved with the 10 Commandments on them. And he brought those tablets down to the people. The tablets were made out of stone. The writing was the divine writing, God's writing that he wrote on those tablets. Now, one could question why this was so necessary. Why did God need to give Moses these stone tablets with the engraved 10 Commandments on them when the rest of the Torah is not going to be written that way? The rest of the Torah is going to be written with ink on parchment in a scroll. The 10 Commandments is only the 10 Commandments. So what's the idea of these 10 Commandments? Why are they necessary? What are they for? What do we need them for? Why did God need to give them? So Rabbi Shneur Zalman, he explains that these 10 Commandments was not just a nice ornament. This was not just a beautiful piece, but this represented the Torah in this world. Because Torah, remember, is the intermediary between God and the physical universe. On the one hand, Torah is a part of this world. On the other hand, it's totally godly and divine. Where is this most apparent? In these tablets. What were these tablets? Stone from down here with the word of God from up there. It was an actual physical piece of divine reality imprinted on the physical reality. And so having those stones, those tablets, was having exactly the embodiment of what Torah is supposed to be, and that is the divine message imprinted on the physical world. And therefore these tablets were more than just precious. They represented the life force of the universe. This was where the divine light landed in this world, and from there spread to the rest of the world. For this reason, these two tablets, were the centerpiece of the temple. Both the temporary tabernacle, the sanctuary that they had while they traveled through the desert until they reached the land of Israel, the various sanctuaries that were built in Israel until the final temple was built in Jerusalem, King Solomon's temple. The centerpiece of that temple, there were various chambers of the temple. The inner sanctum of the temple was called the Holy of Holies, and that Holy of Holies contained the ark, the golden ark which contained the 10 Commandments. Because the temple is a holy space in this world, but what gives it its holiness is the divine revelation that was the Ten Commandments, the tablets of the Ten Commandments, God's word on a physical stone. And so, as he says here, when the first temple stood, the ark and the tablets of the Ten Commandments, which were in the Holy of Holies, so then the Shekhinah rested here. The Shekhinah, the divine presence, the divine light is right here. Going to the temple in those times was not just seeing a nice tourist attraction, not seeing a nice big building and beautiful architecture. It wasn't just a communal gathering to see people and catch up with friends. Going to the temple was an experience of the divine. You saw God when you went to the temple. What does that mean? I haven't been there. I don't know. I don't know what it means to see God. That's what it was. You went to the temple and you experienced a first-hand light of God. That's what it was. And this is because the energy of the temple was that it had the Ten Commandments shining from within the Holy of Holies, and you were in that presence. Even if you didn't go in the Holy of Holies, you were in the presence of the divine. And that revelation, the divine revelation that was in the temple, was more intense than any revelation on any upper worlds, on any spiritual worlds. Souls and angels who inhabit higher worlds, not this physical world, they also receive some type of divine revelation, but nothing compared to the revelation that was experienced in the temple in Jerusalem. That was where the main presence of God shone, through these Ten Commandments.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question?
Yeah?
Angels, I have this issue with angels. To me, it seems a very non-Jewish thing.
I mean, it's a Jewish thing. What can I say? It's from our Torah, the book of Ezekiel. If you read there, you see all about the angels. Maybe you're thinking of Tinkerbells.
Yeah.
They're not Jewish.
Okay.
But an angelic force, a spiritual force, a disembodied force. That's what an angel is. An emissary of the divine. It's certainly a Jewish concept. So when we're talking about this intermediary, the vessel, the conduit that delivers the divine light into the world, it spreads it into the world, like the brain spreads the life of the soul through the body. So this was the Torah. But what do we mean by the Torah? We don't mean in a vague sense the Torah. We mean specifically the Ten Commandments, the stones of the Ten Commandments. That was the physical presence in this world, stones. But who wrote on those stones? God. The divine word was expressed in those stones. And so therefore the mind of the world was the Ten Commandments in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Now, this was revealed in the very physical presence of those Ten Commandments. One of the elements of the Ten Commandments, the stones of the Ten Commandments, is that it says in the Torah that you could read them on both sides or on all sides. You could read the Ten Commandments on all sides, meaning you have a stone, and engraved in the stone was the Ten Commandments, but not engraved like these stones where there's a word engraved on the front, all the way through the stone. The letters permeated all the way through, from one side to the other. Now, if you would try this at home, if you would take a stone or a piece of foam or whatever, piece of paper, and you would cut through it, cut words through the stone, then you could read it on one side. If you looked on the other side, it would be backwards. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out, that when you make a hole through something to make the word will appear right on this side, but backwards on the other side. In the case of the Ten Commandments, this wasn't so. The word went all the way through. If you looked on this side, you could read the words correctly. If you looked on the other side, you could read the words correctly. Which is obviously supernatural. Like that just doesn't work in the world of logic. And if you think that, well, maybe there's some clever way of doing that, like you have those images we once looked at, that if you look at this way and if you look at that way, maybe there's some illusion that you can make that you could see it on both sides. So our sages say, well, when it says you could read it on all sides, it doesn't mean just those two sides, but the sides as well. the tablets were like a block, and unlike in the Cecil B. DeMille version and in the Michelangelo version, the actual stones were more like a box. And so you could read the Ten Commandments on all sides. That you can try at home. I don't think you'll make it. This is supernatural. It wasn't a natural thing. It was a supernatural thing, because on the one hand, we're talking about a stone. It's a rock. It's a part of this world. On the other hand, it's got this divine word on it, which is totally supernatural. It's within nature. It's an object, but it's beyond nature. It's got these letters that you can see on all sides.
Also in the name, hence Hara, in the Middle Eastern Hara.
Another point, that there were two letters in the Hebrew alphabet that are rounded, or that are a full circle. The samach is one which is circular. The final mem is like a square. And so, again, if you would be engraving all the way through a stone, so then what would happen? The middle bit would fall. It has nothing holding on to it. And yet it didn't. It didn't fall out. That the middles of the samach or the mem remained in its place. Which is, again, a supernatural thing, a miracle. And this is, again, on all sides. Whichever angle you saw it, it had this piece of stone that was just hanging in the middle with nothing holding it up. So that's in the very nature of the Ten Commandments, that they're, on the one hand, it was made out of stone. It's rock. There were even shavings from it. It says that Moses, one of the side benefits of being Moses was he was allowed to keep the shavings of these stones. They were of great value. But there were shavings, that means. That means that just like when a human being engraves in a rock, there's pieces that come off the rock. So it was done like it's in this world. It wasn't just magic, abracadabra. It was engraved. God engraved onto the rock. But yet, the way it was totally supernatural. This is the coming together of two worlds, the supernatural and the natural. That it's engraved, but in a way that's totally beyond this world. The meeting of the two. Which again is this intermediary between that which is beyond this world and that which is within this world. The mind of the world. This was what the ark looked like that contained the Ten Commandments. This is a replica. There's a institute called the Temple Institute in Israel that have studied at great length how the temple looked, the various measurements and the materials used. And this is a depiction of how the ark that contained the Ten Commandments looked. So inside this box were the Ten Commandments, the original. This box was kept in the Holy of Holies, which was the inner sanctum of the temple. Now, something unusual about this was that in the measurements of the Holy of Holies, the room where it was kept, these are the measurements from the temple. The width of the ark was 2.5 cubits. A cubit is an arm's length, technically from the wrist to the elbow, or some say from the tip of the finger to the elbow. It's usually assessed at being approximately 50 centimeters, about 50 centimeters. So 2.5 cubits would be about 1.75 meters, approximately. So that was how wide the ark was that contained the Ten Commandments. The room in which the ark was kept, the Holy of Holies, was 20 cubits wide, about 10 meters wide. That would mean that on the side of each of those of the ark, if you would measure from the wall of the ark to the wall of the Holy of Holies, so what would you expect to get? This is challenging. 9 3/4. That if you've got 20 cubits room, and in the middle of it there's a 2.5 cubit box in the middle, so 20 minus 2.5 is 17.5. So therefore on each side, this was in the middle of the room, so on each side, half of 17.5 is 9 3/4. 9.75 cubits. So you would expect to 8.75 cubits, correct. 8.75 cubits on either side. So that's what you would expect to find. Yet, if you did this, you would find 10 cubits from the wall of the ark to this wall, and 10 cubits from the other side of the ark to the other wall. As if the ark is not there. It's not taking up space. But on the other hand, if you measured the ark, it's 2.5 cubits. So it does take up space. So this is not just a cool trick. This is also an expression of having space and being beyond space. You can measure it, but it doesn't measure up. It's there, but it's not there at the same time. This is much bigger than being there or being not there. Being there and not there at the same time far surpasses being either there or not there, being both. Because what does it mean? It means that on the one hand, the ark took up space, and at the very same time, it didn't take up space. It was a part of this world which is defined by space, and it was beyond this world, and therefore not limited to space. It's limited and unlimited at the same time. In other words, if it was just that you saw the ark, but then it wasn't really there, that means it looks like it's there, but it's not there. You measured it and there was no measurement. Okay, so then that's pretty strange. That means it's above space. It's not really there. If you just measured the ark and it's there and it fits and it makes sense and it's 8.75 on each side, so then it's there. Here, you measured the ark and it was there. You measured next to it and it wasn't there. At the very same time, it was there and not there. This is transcending space and above space. It's being both. And so this is what expresses the divine in this world. Because God is both here and beyond being here. He's present, but he's not limited to being present. He's everywhere and he's nowhere. He's not in one place, but there's no place that he's not. And so this was, on the one hand, you're measuring it with the measuring instruments of this world, and it fits, and at the same time, it doesn't fit. So this was an expression of what the Ark and what the Ten Commandments were. They're here in this world, and yet they're completely beyond this world. It's the intermediary between the present and the omnipresent. That's how it was in the first temple. And so therefore the Shekhinah, the divine presence, rested in the Ark, in the Ten Commandments. Continues Rabbi Shnei Zalman, as for the second temple, which did not have the Ark and the tablets, our rabbi said that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, did not abide there. This refers to the category of Shekhinah, the divine presence, which used to abide in the first temple. Rather, a lower level revelation rested in the second temple. Not that there was no Shekhinah, the divine presence rested in the second temple, but not in the same way, not in the same intensity as the first temple, because the second temple did not have the Ark with the Ten Commandments. Where were they? Where were the Ark and the Ten Commandments? King Solomon, when he built the first temple, he prophetically knew that there would come a time that it would be destroyed. And so he designed an underground system of caves and catacombs where the holy objects would be hidden. And that's where they are till today. And King Solomon was smart enough to hide it in a way that it won't be found until it needs to be found. And so when the third temple will be rebuilt, we'll find them again. So, which is interesting, because what that means is King Solomon built the first temple in such a way that the Ark and the Ten Commandments will always be there. They'll just be hidden. And they're still there.
See then why it's not as it's in the first place?
Sorry?
Why it's in the second temple?
Why isn't?
No, why there won't be a Shekhinah like in the first one? Because the first temple, the Ark, was in the second temple. So why it's in the second temple?
Why isn't?
Why?
Why isn't?
Because the Ark was in the second temple. Because also in the first temple it was hidden, yes?
No, in the first temple it was there in the Holy of Holies. In the second temple it was underground, not revealed. In the third temple, God willing, it will be revealed again. So you have a descent where now the ark is there, but it's hidden. So you don't have the same intensity of revelation, but the Shekhinah, the divine presence, still rests in the temple. And we know even now, after the second temple has been destroyed, there's still a holiness and a divine presence at the site of the temple. Jerusalem is still the holy city, Israel is still the holy land, and that's still the holy mountain. But it's hidden. And so it was still, in the second temple times, it was still the headquarters. Because you need revelation here. Hiddenness is not enough. You need revelation. Just like we said in our metaphor, if the mind is the seed of the soul to spread its life throughout the body, the mind has to be the place where the soul is revealed, not concealed, not hidden. If somebody tells me that I have a soul, my soul rests in my mind, but it's hidden there, it's not revealed in my mind, but it's there. So, what does that mean? That's not good news. If the soul's not revealed in the mind, what that means is that you're not actually alive. You're not actually functioning. The mind has to have a revealed experience of life, of soul. If it doesn't, so then the rest of the body can't. So the second temple, it still had holiness, maybe not the same intensity of holiness as the first temple, but it still had holiness and revelation. Going to the second temple was still an experience of divine revelation. And so, even if it was less intense, but it was there. There was still revelation there. So therefore the second temple still served as the conduit to bring the divine light into the world. But after the second temple is destroyed, what are we going to do then? We'll see. He mentions that therefore no man was permitted to enter there except the high priest on the Day of Atonement. The Holy of Holies, even in the second temple, was still a place of divine revelation that nobody could enter except for the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, one day a year on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement, he entered into the Holy of Holies. Because on the holiest day, the person who represents the most holiness, which is the high priest, the collective soul of the Jewish people, then he was allowed to go in there for a brief prayer, for a brief moment. But other than that, no one could enter the Holy of Holies, even in the second temple where there was no ark and without the Ten Commandments there, because it was still a place of divine revelation, too much for somebody to handle. And we know the many stories of if the high priest was not worthy, he wouldn't survive that either. He wouldn't survive going into the Holy of Holies. It was an extremely intense thing. In fact, the sages discussed, if that's the case, if nobody's allowed to enter the Holy of Holies, except for the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, on Yom Kippur, so then what if there was the need to fix stuff in the Holy of Holies? Just maintenance. If anyone who runs a building knows, that things break and they need repairs. You need to fix things, but you can't go in. So if you can't go in, how can you fix it? So the sages say that there was a system where somebody was lowered in from the roof in a box, and that box made them like insulated from the Holy of Holies, and from there they could fix things. This is an artist's impression of fixing the tiles in the Holy of Holies. A guy lowered in the box. He's not the high priest, and it's not Yom Kippur. That was how they fixed things. But you had to know when you were doing that you weren't in the Holy of Holies. You were in this box, because no one could go into the Holy of Holies. No one can enter in there. And this artist's impression must have been in the first temple, but the same would apply to the second. Without the ark and without the Ten Commandments, the holiness remained. In fact, even till today, the holiness of the Holy of Holies does remain. And because we don't necessarily know the exact location of it, so therefore there are many people who would not go up onto the Temple Mount for fear of going where the Holy of Holies is. There are certain parts where you could certainly go, but certain parts of the Temple Mount we're not sure, and even today it retains its holiness, but it's not revealed. it's not revealed holiness. And the proof of that is that there are plenty of people who do go to wherever that Holy of Holies is, and unlike the priests of old, who didn't survive the experience of going to the Holy of Holies if they weren't worthy, today people may not be worthy and nothing seems to happen. They seem to be fine. So the holiness is there, but it's not revealed. And so we've got a problem. If the Holy of Holies, if the Ark, if the Ten Commandments, if this is the place of the revelation of the divine that then spreads to the entire world, if this is the center of it, what do we do now when there is no center? And it's already been 2,000 years that there has been no temple. So where is this center now? Where's the revelation of Torah in the physical world if we don't have the temple anymore? How is this maintained? It can't be hidden. It has to be revealed. Like the mind has to have a revealed experience of the soul, not a hidden one. So where is it now? This is what Rabbi Shnei Zalman asks. However, since the temple was destroyed, where does God dwell? Where is the revelation of the divine in the physical world? It has to be a physical thing. It can't be in the higher realms. It can't be in a spiritual sense. It has to be in the physical. And so what is the current Holy of Holies? Where is the divine revelation now? And this, he says, the answer is in the space created by our observance of Torah. The space created by our observance of Torah. When we observe Torah, doesn't matter where in the world you are or who in the world you are, by observing the divine will, you become the vessel for the divine light to be revealed in the world. You are the tablet that has the divine words written on you. You become the conduit through which the light of God spreads to the world. Because the observance of Torah is the fulfillment of the divine will by a physical person in the physical world. It has the same elements as the tablets of the Ten Commandments. And so when we study the wisdom of Torah and when we fulfill the dictates of Torah, so then we are that conduit, the source of light in this world, the mind of God down here in this world. We become the temple. This is a paraphrase from a Talmudic statement that says that from the moment that God destroyed his temple, he only has, the Shekhinah only has the 4 cubits of halacha, which means the space where halacha, where the divine law is kept. That's where God rests. Which makes it very powerful and yet very accessible. That it used to be this spot in Jerusalem where the divine light was revealed, and now it could be anywhere. It used to be that there was the Holy of Holies where nobody could enter, where no one was allowed in, only the high priest, only on Yom Kippur, only for a few moments. That was the space of the divine revelation in the world. And now, as a result of the destruction of the temple, which is a negative thing, but now the opportunity of experiencing the Holy of Holies is anytime, anywhere, any person. It's an amazing thing that now it's open for all. That anyone who does a mitzvah anywhere they are is now creating the divine light in this world, is forming the conduit of the divine, is bringing down a revelation, is the mind of the world. It seems what it also says in the Talmud, that sometimes what's a failure is actually an advantage. What looks like a step down is actually a step up. The destruction of the temple, which is the banishing of the divine presence from the world, actually makes the divine presence more accessible through our own effort. And so, in a way, what this is saying is that the revelation that there was in the temple back then, as high and as holy, as intense and as amazing as that was, but there was one element that was missing from it. The fact that the temple, both the first and the second, were destroyed means that there's something not quite complete about them. Because something that's complete would never be destroyed. There must have been something missing. It wasn't just the temples were destroyed because we weren't worthy, but there was something about the temples themselves that was not permanent for this world and therefore was taken away. And that is that those temples were not completely earned, were not created totally by us. They were given to us. It was a divine light that was presented to us. The 10 Commandments was given by God to us. And the temple was a revelation of God from above. The third temple that we're waiting for is going to be different. It's going to be as a result of the accumulated spiritual work that we have done over the generations. That will create the possibility of this world having a divine revelation in it. It won't be a gift from above. It won't be a superimposed revelation. It'll be a revelation that we created. That the divine light that we achieve every time we do a mitzvah is stored away, it's building up, and eventually all of that will accumulate to enough divine light to make this world a place where it's ready for a divine revelation. It's ready for God to be revealed. The revelation that was in the temple back then, the world didn't appreciate it. Partly because the world didn't earn it. Like we know that when you're given a gift, it's nice, but when you earn something yourself, it's really yours. The hard work that we're doing in doing mitzvahs in the darkness, when there is no temple, that is creating a world that's ready for a temple, ready for a revelation, that's earning the revelation. And therefore that temple, the third temple, will be one that will be permanent. And so this is the opportunity. What we're doing now is we're building the temple through our life. We're creating the divine revelation through the mitzvahs that we do. One of the prayers we say on a daily basis in the prayer book is we say Sheyabanu Beis Hamikdash bimheira v'yameinu, that may God build the temple bimheira, speedily, beyameinu, in our days. Speedily in our days. Speedily means quick, in our days means like while we're still around. But a deeper explanation offered by one of the Chassidic masters, Rabbi Meir of Plemeshlan, is that may God build the temple, Sheyabanu Beis Hamikdash bimheira, speedily, beyameinu, with our days. Not in our days, with our days. What are the materials that God uses to build the temple? Our days. The way we spend our day. The mitzvahs that we've done today. They are the building blocks of the temple. Because by us creating a sanctuary for God in our lives, we will create a sanctuary for God in the world. And so each person has their spiritual life, the area of life where they dedicate themselves to doing a mitzvah, to doing good. And that area expands. There's an opportunity to do a mitzvah in every single thing we do. It's not just doing a mitzvah doesn't just mean coming to shul or doing a religious act per se, but it means in the way we interact in everything that we do. There's a mitzvah way of doing it. There's a way of doing it that's according to the divine will. By doing that, we are creating a sanctuary for God in the world. We are the temple. We're the walking sanctuary. And that eventually accumulates to make the world a sanctuary, to allow the temple, the third temple that will come, that will be permanent, that will be here forever. Yeah.
How does this theory compute with the other option of getting the third Bet HaMikdash when it's Be'ita? Lo be'achishena, like you just described, Be'ita. Like, how does that work?
So there's an idea that there's a debate about whether the temple is going to fall down from heaven or whether it's going to be built by us. So this was once addressed by the Rabbi at length, where he says that really it has to be both. There are elements of the temple that have to come down, but there's elements of it that we have to construct. And so ultimately the ultimate temple can only come when our world is ready for it. And according to the sages, that's now. We're there already. There's some finishing touch that we have to do. There's some little thing we have to push over the edge. But
And will it be in the same spot with Thursday?
yes, that is the chosen place in Jerusalem.
And what about the rock in the Arab
So-
Is it this, it's not the Holy of Holies?
So many say that it is.
That
The rock
it is,
is the Holy of Holies. That's the foundation stone from where the world was created. Many opinions say that, but there are other opinions as well. So that we'll figure out when we need to.
And then actually rabbis forbid Jews to go and pray near this room because it may be Holy of
Well, that's what I
Holies.
said. That there's
And
still an issue of entering the Holy of Holies even in its destruction. The holiness is still there, but it's not revealed. Yeah, correct. So here Rabbi Shneur Zalman has really come to the crux of this entire book, and that is that it's all up to us, that we have the power to bring this divine light in the world. As he said in the earlier chapters, the point of creation, the whole intention that God created this world was in order that he should be revealed in a lowly place, that there should be a place that is lowly. Lowly meaning it's devoid of the divine light. It's a dark, harsh place. And in that place, you have the choice to reject and not look for God, or to seek him and to bring him in. It's totally your choice. And you choose to do it. You bring him in by choice. That's what he wanted. The only thing that you can say that God didn't have before he created us was another to choose him. That he didn't have. And that's what we are. We're the other that can choose him. And so our mission is to create a temple, a sanctuary, a divine revelation down here in this world. And that happens through the deeds that we do, the mitzvahs that we do. And specifically, what Rabbi Shneur Zalman has been saying throughout the Tanya is that who is entrusted with this mission, who is supposed to do this? It's not the holy people that are supposed to do this. It's you and me that are supposed to do this. The people who are as yet unholy. We're not yet holy people. It's our mission in a way more than a holy person. Because a holy person doing holy acts is not all that surprising. But an unholy person, somebody who still struggles with ugliness in their own personality, who doesn't always have a strong desire to do the right thing and has to overcome stuff in order to do a mitzvah, such a person is bringing the divine presence all the way down into the lowest realm. That is what God wanted from the first place. So who is a real 10 commandments of this world? Who's the real revelation of the divine? It's we who are struggling. What Rabbi Shneur Zalman termed the Beinani, the intermediate person, the person who's in between good and evil, who's struggling with the two. Not the tzaddik, the perfectly righteous person, but the Beinani primarily. So this is how he puts it. So anytime you sit by yourself and occupy yourself with Torah, the Shekhinah is with you. Anytime you occupy yourself with Torah, which means both studying Torah, learning it, and bring it into your mind, and doing it, fulfilling it, and doing a mitzvah, fulfilling a commandment. Anytime you by yourself, you don't need anyone else to do this with you. When you're doing it, you're bringing the divine presence into the world. Every individual can do this. And this is what the wonder child in the Zohar meant. If you remember several chapters ago, we met the wonder child. In the Zohar, the great Kabbalistic work, there's a child who's called the Yenuka, the child who just started speaking words of wisdom that the sages were amazed by, and they recorded his words. So one of his teachings, which we mentioned earlier, was that the supernal light that is kindled above your head, which is the Shekhinah, the divine presence, requires oil. Says this Yenuka, this wonder child, that there's a supernal light, there's a divine light above your head, which is the Shekhinah, the divine presence. The divine presence is shining above your head. It's your light that is created to house the divine light of the Shekhinah. But it needs oil. As is explained in the Zohar, what is the oil? These are the good deeds, namely the 613 commandments, which derive from His blessed wisdom. God's wisdom is compared to oil. The mitzvahs are the physical manifestation of the divine wisdom. This is what God wants. This is His thoughts. This is His opinion. This is what He wants you to do. So there's a light that is shining above your head, a candle. But a candle to burn needs oil. The oil to maintain the flame is the commandment, the mitzvah that you do. What does that mean? So you've got a few things here. In this metaphor that this wonder child is offering, you have a few objects. What are they? What are the objects in this metaphor? How many can you see in this metaphor? The supernal light that is kindled above your head requires oil. Light, oil. Well, that's the light. The light is the Shekhinah. That's the oil. So we've got oil and we've got light. Anything else? We've also got you. You're not the oil or the light, you're the you. This light that's above your head. So we've got you in your head. And what's not mentioned is if you've got oil and you've got a flame, you must have a wick. Like you can't light oil. So there's you. There's this flame above your head. The flame is fed by oil, and it must have a wick. So we need to figure out what are all these characters in this metaphor. We've got the light above the head is the Shekhinah, the divine presence. That we know. And the oil are the commandments that you do. So who's the you and who's the wick? The wick is the neshama. And who's the you? Who's your head? The body. So in a flame, in a fire, what makes the fire? The oil or the wick? Or the fire?
Said that the flame is the in between the physical and the spiritual.
So why do you need a wick? If I've got oil, why do I need a wick? I can't light oil. Why not? So the wick gets burned. The oil fuels the fire. And the person provides the oil. So the end result is there's a flame. To get the flame, you need to have a wick that you light the flame on, but the wick burns out. The wick actually gets burnt. That's the part that gets burnt. The oil doesn't get burnt. The oil becomes the flame. The wick gets burnt, and so you need to provide oil. As long as there's oil, so then you're burning up the wick, but that burning is a good burning because that's allowing the flame to exist. So if the flame is the divine light, which is our ultimate goal is to bring the divine light into the world, the way you bring the divine light into the world is by doing mitzvahs, doing the commandments, which is the oil. So the you bringing the oil, in order for this divine light to shine above your head, the you is your divine soul. Because who does a mitzvah? Which part of you wants to do the divine will? It's your divine soul. The nefesh elokis, the divine soul. And so what gets burnt in the process? The wick. Which part of you gets burnt in the process? The animal soul. The animal soul. The animal soul is what is resisting this whole thing. This is what you have to fight in order to create this flame. That your divine soul wants to do the divine will. God wants you to do the divine will. We're all in agreement, but there's a problem in between, and that is your animal soul. Your animal soul is not interested in this at all. Your animal soul, as we've studied at length at the beginning of Tanya, is about selfishness, about this worldliness, about ego, about creature comforts. It's not interested in anything altruistic. And so everything would be fine and dandy if it would just be a divine soul listening to God. But you wouldn't create a flame. The flame is created through the burning of the animal soul. Every time you conquer your animal soul's distractions and disturbances, and you do the mitzvah anyway, you break yourself to do the right thing even though you're not in the mood to do it, or even though you have a pull against it, away from it. When you break that, that's the burning up of the animal soul. And that's actually what creates the flame. It's the fact that the oil passes through the wick that the flame is able to actually exist. It's the fact that the mitzvah is the act of your divine soul being performed by your animal soul in your body. That's what burns the flame. That's what creates the divine light in this world. This is bringing together all the concepts of Tanya that we've seen till now. It's showing that we're having a soul wrestle in our life between these two souls. That the divine soul that just wants to do what God wants, the animal soul that has no interest in that whatsoever, just wants to do what it wants. It's selfish, it's egotistical, it's this worldly, it's hedonistic. But it's the animal soul that is the drive behind our body. Our body is enlivened directly by the animal soul. The animal soul is like the batteries that give energy to our body. The divine soul is our deeper self. That's really the source of our energy, but on a more direct level, it's the animal soul that governs what our body does. And so to do a mitzvah requires your body. As we said before, the whole idea of a mitzvah is that the physical world should be an expression of the divine will. That means your body has to do the act. You have to get up and you have to say the words of the prayer, or you have to shake the lulav with your hand, or you have to light the candles, or whatever the mitzvah is you're doing. It's always going to involve your body. And the body needs the animal soul to make it move. So you got the divine soul here wanting you to do the mitzvah. It's the body you need to do the mitzvah with, and in between there's the animal soul saying, what do I want that for? And so every time you want to do a mitzvah, there's a resistance of the animal soul saying, not now. And every time you overcome that lethargy and that laziness and that distraction of the animal soul and say, no, I'm doing it. I'm doing the mitzvah. And every time, if it hurts a little bit, if it took effort, I had to break myself to do it, that breaking is the burning of the animal soul to allow a flame to light, the divine light to shine. It wouldn't happen otherwise. You can't have a flame without the wick that burns. Yet there has to be that tension there has to be that friction. The oil can't light. It's the wick that's fed with oil, that's saturated with oil, that lights and creates the flame. It's the animal soul that is being burned up in our desire to do the right thing, and so we have to break a part of ourselves to do it. That's what creates the divine light. So that's the wonder child here, the Yenuka in the Zohar is saying, the supernal light, the divine Shekhinah, the divine light to shine in this world, that is a candle lit above your head. Your head means your divine soul. That's you. You're experiencing this divine light. You're bringing this divine light in the world. But how do you do it? Through doing a mitzvah. How do you do a mitzvah? Through getting your body to move. And how do you get your body to move? By breaking your animal soul and its resistance to the mitzvah. Every time you break that resistance, that tension allows the flame to come out. That's what he says here. Thereby the light of the Shekhinah can cling to the wick, which is the animal soul in the body, which is metaphorically called a wick. For just as in the case of a material candle, the light shines by virtue of the burning away of the wick, turning to fire. So does the light of the Shekhinah rest on the divine soul as a result of the burning away of the animal soul and its transformation from darkness to light and from bitterness to sweetness. But that is in the case of a tzaddik. A tzaddik transforms the animal soul completely from darkness to light, from bitterness to sweet. The tzaddik is able to turn around the animal soul to not be an enemy anymore. That's a tzaddik's light. But for a Beinoni, for a struggler, for somebody who's not a tzaddik, it is through the burning away of the garments of the animal soul, which are thought, speech, and action, and their transformation from the darkness of the klipot, the powers of evil, to the divine light of the blessed Ein Sof, the infinite light of God, which is clothed and united in the thought, speech, and action of the 613 commandments of the Torah. That's in the case of Beinonim. So, in other words, a tzaddik is able to totally transform the animal soul from darkness to light, from bitterness to sweet, where the animal soul doesn't interfere anymore. So the tzaddik creates a light, a very powerful light, because the animal soul is turned around as an accessory. But the real tension comes from a Beinoni, somebody who's struggling on a daily basis to do the right thing. Maybe we don't transform our animal soul ever. We will always have an animal soul that will always try to get in the way. We will never get over it. We will never become a tzaddik. And as Tanya said earlier, you might as well forget about it now. Stop trying to be a tzaddik because that's not your mission. Your mission is to be a struggler. That is somebody who will always beat their animal soul, even though the animal soul will never go away. On the level of garments, of behavior, thought, speech, and action, that's where we have to win. We're still going to have desires for evil, but we should never let it happen, never act on it. That is totally in our hands. And it's that, for the Beinoni, that's the transformation of the animal soul, the burning up of the wick, which causes the divine light to come into the world. And in a way, that light has a power, has a drama that the tzaddik's light doesn't have. Because the tzaddik hasn't got this struggle. It's not so dramatic. It's a very smooth type of procedure. For the Beinoni, it's a constant struggle.
What's the wick of the tzaddik?
He also has a body. A tzaddik also has a physical body. Tzaddik is also inhabiting this world, and they have an animal soul, but their animal soul is not struggling. So it's a much smoother process. Their light is a very, very gentle, smooth light. But the Beinoni, the fire we create, is a big flame, because there's a much thicker wick that's being burnt up. So it's a much more dramatic, brighter flame in a way. What this imagery does, if you really contemplate on it deeply, is it sanctifies the struggle. It takes you, rather than being frustrated by the fact that doing a mitzvah comes difficult and you have to work hard for it and there's resistance to it and you get lazy and you forget and you have all these different pulls inside of you. Instead of feeling down about that and being disappointed in yourself and thinking how far I am from where I'm supposed to be, this is saying, no, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. This is how the divine light is created, through that struggle, through that constant struggle. If it would come easy, then it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same light. And that's not how it's supposed to be. It's through the conquering of the animal soul that we actually create the light, the burning up, that we actually bring the flame down. And so Tanya is telling us that the purpose of creation is not fulfilled by people who are already holy, doing holy things. It's people who are yet to be holy, far from it. But you can also do a holy thing. You can also do a divine act. I'm very far from being a divine being. I'm a very average, lowly being. I still have ugly desires. I still have moments when I could do really bad things. But it's up to me whether I do that or not. I still have control over my behavior. I may have an ugly desire, but by denying myself the ugly desire and doing what's right and what's holy, every time I do that, I'm burning up the animal soul. It'll still be there tomorrow, but that's just more wick to burn. And I just need more oil, more mitzvahs to keep on burning it. And that creates the divine light. And I think in this way, Tanya is perhaps unique in all of Jewish literature. All other works of Jewish morality, of Jewish ethics, of mystical and spiritual writings, all the others present a goal of being perfect, of reaching perfection. And Tanya comes along and says, there are a couple of people every generation who that is their goal. The rest of us, that's not our goal. Our goal is not to be perfect. Our goal is to be a struggler, an imperfect struggler. For that alone, Tanya is so revolutionary. But then it takes a step further and says, but you should know that that's not a consolation prize to be a struggler. That's actually where the divine light is really centered, in your struggle, in that moment of struggle that you have. In an imperfect person doing an act that is holy. That's where the divine light shines the most.
So the more struggles you have,
The more light that you can produce. And so forget about ending the struggle. That will be in another lifetime, not in this world. This world is the world of struggle. And so embracing it, accepting it, and actually taking it on as your life mission. And giving yourself credit for every single victory in that struggle. Like that was more divine light in the world. And that's why the struggle was there in the first place. So this soul wrestle that we're in between these two souls, we now understand it's not like in dualistic thought or in certain other spiritualities where there's two sides to the world. There's the dark side and the good side. There's the world of evil and the world of goodness. There's God versus Satan. And we're just like caught in the middle of the struggle. No, there's only one side. There's only God. There's no two sides. Both the divine soul and the animal soul are divine creations, are given to us by God. Both of them are there for us to fulfill our mission, to help us fulfill our mission. The divine soul is the one that we have to follow. The animal soul is the one we have to burn, the one we have to conquer, the one we have to overcome. But that's what the animal soul's for. And if we didn't have that animal soul, if we didn't have that resistance, so then there wouldn't be a wick to burn up. There wouldn't be the drama, the tension of bringing God into the world. There wouldn't be the lowliness where God can be revealed. There wouldn't be the free choice that makes our relationship with God real. And so Rabbi Shneur Zalman continues, for it is the transformation of the animal soul originating from the clipper, the power of evil, from darkness to light, that draws down the light of the Shekhinah over one's divine soul. In other words, the divine soul can't do it alone. The oil can't burn. You need the wick. It needs to be the transformation, the conquering, the fight, the battle with the animal soul that comes from Klippa, which is the power of evil, transforming it from darkness to light. That's what draws down the light of the Shekhinah over the divine soul. The divine soul gets an advantage through the efforts it does to conquer the animal soul. That can't be done any other way. And the last words of Tanya, Rabbi Shneur Zalman says, with this we can understand the meaning of the verse in the book of Deuteronomy that says, the Lord your God is a consuming fire. That Hashem Elokecha eish oichla, the Lord your God is a consuming fire. People have read this verse for many centuries, and I would assume, how do they understand it? The Lord your God is a consuming fire. Does that sound encouraging? Friendly? Inspiring? sounds like fire and brimstone. The Lord your God is a consuming fire. Like in other words, He's out to get you. That's how many have understood this verse. Rabbi Shneur Zalman, of course, didn't. He understood what it's really saying. A consuming fire. What we now understand. What does a consuming fire mean? It means that there's a fire there, but that fire needs to be fed. Consume means to eat. You need to feed it. You need to give it fuel. Which means an unbelievable thing, that God is the consuming fire, meaning God is the light of the world, but He needs you to fuel His light in this world. He needs you to feed Him, as it were. For Him to have a presence in this world, the only way is through you and me giving Him a presence in this world. We have to fuel it. How do we fuel it? Through the mitzvah that we do. The mitzvah is the oil that fuels the fire. If we don't do that, He can't be here. He can't be in the world without us bringing Him in the world. Not because He's unable, He can do whatever He wants. But for Him to be in the lowly world, for this world to have Him, this world to choose Him, this world to invite Him in, that's up to us. We have to fuel His presence in the world. And therefore it says, the Lord your God is a consuming fire. To be your God, for you to have a relationship with Him, for Him to be present in your life, for Him to be close to you, for that we need to feed that flame. And when we do, the flame causes warmth and light and holiness and blessing and all good things. And so if the Ten Commandments in the place of the Holy of Holies was a place of miracles, the place where miraculously the ark was there but it wasn't there, it was a coming together of what's within the world and beyond the world. If we are that ark, if we are those Ten Commandments, if we are the presence of God in the world, so then living a life that is providing the fuel for the consuming fire, living a life of mitzvah observance, of studying Torah, of bringing that light into the world, is living a life that is both in this world and beyond this world, within the confines of nature, but also not limited to the confines of nature. We live in a miraculous space, but that is down here. It's like being in the Holy of Holies all the time. And this, Rabbi Shneur Zalman says, is not only realistic, it's accessible, and it's necessary, and this is our life. That the Lord is your God, He's your personal God, and He needs you to provide the fuel for the flame. And we can't wait for holy people to do it, we have to do it. So here ends the 53rd chapter of Tanya with a message that encapsulates the entire book, and that is that the wrestle that we're in is real, it's for our lifetime, it is our life mission, and we have every tool to win the wrestle, but that means we're going to still have to win it again tomorrow. We can win today, but we have to win again tomorrow, because the battle is going to be a lifetime. But every time we win, we're drawing the divine light in the world, and that is infinite. That's forever. Okay. Having finished Tanya, as I said before, finishing is always to begin again. It's circular, and so we haven't really begun. But still, since we reached the 53rd chapter, so we should say L'chaim. Is anyone who'd like to join me with a little whiskey? L'chaim. And in keeping with the idea that that ending is beginning, so I intend to start a new Tanya series, which will probably start after Pesach, which will be going through the meditations on the Tanya. So we're going to take ideas from Tanya, starting from the beginning, and extract the meditations, because you could read Tanya as a book of meditations. It's got dozens of different meditations there, and so we're going to do that, God willing, after Pesach. In the meantime, I would like to organize in the next couple of weeks before Pesach a celebration of the completion of the Tanya and a launching of the new series. And the way we're going to do that is by going through some of the stories and the power of Tanya. I would also invite those of you who've been coming to the class to share some of what Tanya has done for you, and also some of the music of Tanya. Rabbi Zalman, apart from being an author of very profound ideas, was also a composer of amazingly deep music. And so we're going to organize an evening of celebration of the teachings and the music of Rabbi Zalman to celebrate the completion of the Tanya. That is going to be in the next couple before Pesach, God willing, but after Purim, perhaps on a Monday night, since that's been our night. So stay tuned for that.